What's up, guys? Richard here, back with another episode of our Cosmic I Ching series. And today we are on Hexagram 52, meditating, which is mountain over mountain. It's also called stillness, keeping still, things like that. But as we've seen throughout this series, this version of the I Ching, it often has new names for the hexagrams because the old names, the old words, didn't properly reflect the cosmic definition of the hexagram. And that's what we're really concerned with here, the cosmic meaning of all the hexagrams. The judgment, meditating, turning within to cease depending on others, he enters his courtyard to seek his inner truth. No blame. He brings his back to quiet until clarity appears. I Ching meditation is an exercise that brings a person into contact with his primary issues of concern. Its purpose is to make him see them in the light of his inner truth. His inner truth reveals the hidden inner elements within the situation so that he can come to a correct assessment and action. Meditation also reveals the seed, phrases, and images that have taken on the form of imps in his psyche and which manifest as impulses which keep his words and actions from being in harmony with his true self and with the cosmos. I Ching meditation is also the means by which seed, phrases, and images are deprogrammed through saying the inner no and through asking the sage to lead the deprogramming process. I Ching meditation is also a directed effort to free the person's true self from projections, spells, and poison arrows that are revealed through the hexagrams or through the RTCM. All projections and spells and many poison arrows are made up of phrases and or images that express a half-truth or untruth about a person's true nature, life, or the cosmos/nature in general. Although it may not be obvious at first, all phrases and images that concern nature and the cosmos also negatively affect the individual's psyche and the character of his daily life. For they determine whether he lives within the cosmic reality or within the parallel reality created by the collective ego. And that's simply words and phrases that can do that, that can determine which reality you're living in. That's the power of words that we've learned to appreciate throughout this series. I Ching meditation differs from known meditation techniques, which only bring temporary relief from tension or conflict. Among these are techniques in which the person focuses on a candle or object of inner focus, such as an image, a sound, a word, phrase, or idea, and other exercises, which either silence the primary issues of concern or keep them at bay through distraction. The same applies to meditation techniques that empty the mind and then keep it empty through a mental discipline. This latter technique keeps the issues of concern locked in a mental compartment where, despite the great need of the psyche to have them brought into conscious focus and addressed, the person is prevented from doing so. I knew I could never meditate for a reason or follow those meditation disciplines, whatever. Guided meditations, except for the purpose of deprogramming, in which the person is led to visualize images, encourage fantasies instead of helping him access his inner truth. All these techniques give a temporary sense of peace and balance. However, the balance is soon lost when the person stops meditating because the fundamental seed, phrases, and images which cause the imbalance still reside in the psyche. The ego likes nothing so much as a temporary solution that enables it to remain in control and to allow it to further spur a person's spiritual ambition. The danger lying in such temporary solutions to find relief from the anxieties that mistaken ideas create in the psyche is that the technique may become an addiction. The first step in I Ching meditation consists in opening the mind by turning away from all meditation techniques, because none of these involve the sage or the helpers of the invisible world, and bringing the helpers into his meditation. He does so by asking for their help and guidance with the problem of the moment. It is important that he not ask the guidance of any spirit or medium, for in that case, he will not reach the sage, but a dead person who, for one reason or another, is held in an intermediary place because of some mistaken belief that is not yet burned out. What the person may receive from such a source is false information. Wow. So this right here is implying Here we get another crazy tidbit of info. It's implying that spirits and mediums are, dead people whose beliefs have not yet burned out, whose false beliefs have not yet burned out, and are held in this intermediary realm beyond death. And it's saying here that what they'll give you is false information, actually, because their own existence is indeed based on those false, mistaken ideas that they still are clinging on to. And that's what makes them a spirit or medium, I suppose. It is also important that the person avoids using meditation to get something he desires. Rather than asking for such things as peace of mind, the purpose of the meditation is to remove those thoughts and images that trouble his mind. This is done by listening to those phrases and looking at those images that disturb his inner peace and saying the inner no to them. Thus, the second step in I Ching meditation is the process of cleansing the psyche. This process is made easier by asking the cleansing helpers to free the psyche of everything that the person is ready to rid himself of at a given moment. These helpers will then bring into focus images that are keys to understanding the context of his concerns. The person needs time to allow these images to develop. If, however, they do not occur within half an hour, it is likely that the ego is present trying to meditate and thereby is maintaining control over the psyche. It is necessary at this point to say the inner no to its presence and to cease meditating as a way of retreating from it. It may take several sessions to get past the ego before the person can have a successful meditation, but he must not be discouraged by attempts of the ego to assert that he is unable to meditate or that it is too difficult. During the meditation, images may flash into his mind, which he does not understand. It is possible to inwardly ask the sage what the image means. Often, after a few seconds, the answer comes, either in a word or a phrase, which may actually be the seed phrase that is causing the difficulty. Shown in the context of the meditation, its absurdity becomes obvious. After the meditation has come to an end, the person needs to rid himself of the seed phrases or images uncovered by saying the inner no to them. The no gives his suppressed inner truth the full support of his conscious mind, and thus heals his psyche of that particular problem. It is important to write down these phrases and images and to continue saying the inner no to them for 3 days. Line 1, keeping his toes still, no blame. It furthers one to remain firmly correct. Keeping his toes still is counsel to resist taking action in any form. The word action throughout the I Ching includes thoughts as well as deeds. This is because incorrect thoughts project negative effects onto people and situations. Thus, this line counsels a person to become inwardly quiet through dispersing all his present thoughts and worries as a way of opening himself up to the suggestions and guidance of the sage. This line clearly indicates that a particular seed phrase, image, projection, spell, or poison arrow is active in the situation and needs to be identified and addressed. It is sufficient to close one's eyes briefly and ask the helpers to bring into one's conscious mind the seed phrases or images that need to be identified and disposed of in order to attain clarity. A person may also ask through the RTCM whether the element to be found is coming either from inside himself or from someone else. Then he needs to identify the nature of the element and what inner action he needs to take to stop its influence. Movement in the toes can refer to impulses coming from the ego. They are based on particular seed phrases that consist of stated policies and procedures for doing things. Many of these phrases contain shoulds. They drive a person's actions and reactions into pre-structured channels that conform to a particular image the person has of himself. Such impulsive actions differ from the spontaneity and simplicity of action that springs from a person's inner truth. Seed phrases that drive impulses are, you need to defend yourself. You need to be somebody. You must assert yourself in this life. If you don't fight back, you'll be ruined. If you don't do something, nothing will happen. Impulsive movement can also be spurred by a person's impatience with ambiguity. Seed phrases behind this difficulty are, someone has got to put their foot down. You can't just do nothing. It is better to act than not to act. And if somebody doesn't do something, things will never change. A person can also receive this line when he is caught in the spell that he is an impulsive person. This spell is causing him to act impulsively. The impulse to do something may also be coming from guilt that is part of the person's belief system. No blame is to make him aware that the idea of guilt has no cosmic validity. It furthers one to remain firmly correct is also a warning not to impute guilt to another person or thing. It is also possible that a person receives the line to make him aware that he is drawing spells and projections from others because he is attached to a particular self-image. An example is the person who has the self-image of the likable person. He unconsciously is trapped in behavior to please others, for which the egos in them only despise him, causing them to send the projections mentioned. To free himself from this pattern, he needs to deprogram that self-image. Line 2, keeping his calves still. He cannot rescue him whom he follows. His heart is not glad. The calves in this line have to do with the exercise of power, whether it be external power, power through speech or acts, or internal power through thought. This line concerns a person trying to get someone to conform to the standards and values of the collective ego, thinking this will rescue him. The person may be using flattery, leverage, contrivance, pressure, or guilt to achieve his goal. The line counsels him to keep his calves still, meaning to back away from such efforts, because he cannot rescue anyone by pursuing him. Such a person first needs to deliver himself from his belief in the values of the collective ego that keep his true self imprisoned. In regard to meditation, this line refers to a person's incorrectly using the energy of his meditation to sway others, to bring them around to his beliefs. Such intentional efforts are not in harmony with the cosmos. He needs to say the inner no to such a practice. His heart is not glad refers to a person who wants to be rescued by another. He holds the idea that he is incomplete in himself and that there is no help other than what people can give. This idea keeps him separated from the true source of help, the helpers of the invisible world, and causes him to continuously feed off the caring energies of another who believes that it is his job to rescue others. The person who acts on the self-image of being a rescuer unconsciously projects his doubt that others lack the resources within themselves for the recovery. This doubt puts a spell on them that hampers the ability to ask for help from the cosmos. This line counsels the person who has the self-image of the rescuer that whatever idea motivates him to fulfill this role, be it guilt, duty, love, loyalty, or some other abstract virtue, these motives will draw people to him who wish to live off his chi energy. Ridding himself of this false motive will cause the other to eventually seek true help from the helpers or seek another rescuer. The person desiring to be rescued is most likely under a spell put on him in childhood that only a higher authority, such as a parent or master, has the ability to rescue him. The help that can be given this person is to identify and break the spell that prevents him from asking the helpers to come to his aid. The line can also address a person who is under a guilt spell and at the same time is trying to free someone else who is under the same spell. A person under such a spell is not able to help anyone until he has freed himself. Keeping the calves still also refers to forcing the body into uncomfortable positions with the idea that doing so is the correct way to meditate. Such efforts come from beliefs that the body is the source of evil and must be disciplined with force if one is to achieve spiritual development. This idea falsely divides one's wholeness into mind and body, with mind/spirit seeking mastery over the body, an idea that puts spells both on the body and the mind. The goal of meditation is not mental spiritual control over the body, but ridding oneself of spells such as these that prevent one's inner harmony. Line 3, keeping his hips still, making his sacrum stiff, dangerous. The heart suffocates. Keeping his hips still can be a metaphor for a person who's trying to use his will to force results through mental concentration. Such an approach is based on the belief that humans are the ones who are meant to make everything happen. It therefore excludes the helpers. And you notice, the implications of these beliefs might not be apparent right away, but these are indeed the beliefs that are contained there, the hidden beliefs, and that will project themselves into reality. Like, for example, a person trying to use his will to force results implies in that belief, in the words themselves, that humans are the ones who are meant to make things happen. It automatically excludes the helpers of the invisible world. You know, whether you realize that or not, that's what's happening. Anyways, this line can also refer to a person who, in meditation or in his life, listens to his mind rather than to his body, and thus suffocates the feelings that come from his heart. As a consequence, his heart cannot find rest, a condition that leads to exhaustion and to heart problems. Receiving this line can also indicate that a person is harboring worries, anxieties, and doubts. If so, he needs to say the inner no to each one and turn it over to the helper of transformation. Through disengaging from these negative emotions, he will find peace and allow the solutions to his problems to come as insights. This line can also address a person who practices meditation ambitiously by meditating for long hours or by going on austere retreats. The sage retreats in the presence of all ambition, and whenever a person decreases his dignity by taking on a servile attitude toward anything or anyone he perceives as higher than himself, the person may believe that his efforts will please or impress the sage, as would be the case with a human teacher or authority. The help the sage gives is meant to free his true self from its arrested development during childhood, to grow up to maturity, which includes validating his original completeness. It does not seek to keep him in an inferior position typical of the fetal mindset. The inner no needs to be said to such practices and to the belief that is behind them. The line can also warn a person not to throw his dignity away to save a relationship that is dominated by the ego and his partner. He needs to say the inner no to his partner's attempts to make him feel guilty and to withdraw so as not to feed the ego with his chi energy until the other has corrected himself. The line can also refer to a person who's trying to prolong his life in a body beyond his time. In doing so, he oversteps the cosmic limits that apply to humans. Living in a body is not a matter of right, but a cosmic gift as part of a person's life experience. A person continues his life in an invisible form after death, as long as there is no interference with the transformation of his life coming from mistaken beliefs about death. Line 4, keeping his trunk still, no blame. Keeping his trunk still counsels regular examination in meditation where the heart is in relation to the rest of the body, whether it is neglected by paying attention only to the mind, to one's looks, to one's physical condition, etc. This regular examination enables a person to keep his heart healthy. It is also important to examine what condition the heart is in. Is it rigid, dried up, swollen, open, or closed? Does it contain foreign objects, such as seeds or worms? The latter stand for seed phrases and images that need to be identified with the help of the sage. Worms stand for thoughts that are eating away at his wholeness. Such a person needs to ask the sage to mobilize the helpers needed to restore his heart. Worms can also mean the heart is filled with guilt. The person needs to understand that guilt has no cosmic basis. The words no blame are to make him aware that there is no cause for blame in the sense of guilt. The metaphor also refers to using meditation or prayer to fulfill certain intentions. In this case, the heart is under the ego's influence and its efforts to control an outer situation. The ego's desires need to be distinguished from the natural inclinations of the heart. Lovers, for example, naturally want to be in each other's company, but the ego desires to possess and control the partner according to its image of what is correct. Ego-based desire, which comes from a human-centered view of the universe, puts a spell on the gift-giving nature of the cosmos. It is like holding one's hands out for a specific gift, something one thinks or fantasizes will fulfill one's needs, rather than asking the cosmos to supply the correct solution for the situation. The sage is blocked when a person prays for a specific goal, which he takes for granted as correct. For example, a person who prays for another's healing when that person's illness is due to a fate takes on that person's fate. Wow. In regard to praying for peace, such praying bypasses the essential inquiry into the inner causes of the conflict. Only through such inquiry can a person address these causes and say the inner no to them, thus initiating transformations. The inner no also penetrates to other people's true selves, strengthening them to stand up to the ego in themselves. Praying for peace only serves the selfish purpose of returning the situation to non-threatening and non-harmful so that the person may feel comfortable about it. That's pretty profound right there. When the ego controls meditation, it seeks to have esoteric experiences and to turn the meditation towards its specific goals. This blocks the sage's coming with insight and help. Line 5, keeping his jaws still. When the words have order, remorse disappears. Keeping his jaw still counsels a person who is being pressed by the ego's fears, doubts, feelings of guilt, desires, impatience, or other causes of restlessness to hold back from speaking until he has freed himself from these elements of meditation. So long as he allows them to operate in his psyche, his words and actions create negative results. The words have order, and remorse disappears when he has eradicated these unruly elements. This line also counsels a person to be careful that his words correctly describe the intrinsic worth of things and not only describe what they appear to be. The person is facing a problem that has been caused by the slanderous use of a word, which needs to be identified and deprogrammed as a spell. This line can also address a situation in which one person diminishes another's sincerity as by distorting what he says or treating it as trivial or banal. The correct response is to say the inner no to the other's action, turn the matter over to the cosmos, and inwardly retreat from the situation. Line 6, noble-hearted, keeping still, good fortune. This line can be a confirmation that a person has rid himself of doubts. He therefore experiences a true peace of the heart. A person may also receive this line to tell him that when he wants to meditate and is sincere and open, he can ask the sage to keep his thoughts or negative emotions still so that he can look at them inwardly and rid himself of them. In another meaning, this line can address a person who is trying to achieve peace of the heart, but employs the wrong means. He lets another off the hook of his ego behavior instead of saying the inner no to him. Doing this means acting from the self-image of the noble-hearted person. Such behavior shows that both people are caught in a codependency in which the two egos support each other. Codependencies are based on spells and can be resolved by ridding oneself from these spells. Then good fortune can come. All right, guys, a new look at meditation. What exactly is meditation and the correct way to meditate? Very, very interesting here. We've got the I Ching meditation lined out now. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Thanks so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe right there, and I'll see you again in the next one.